Okay, so welcome to the 8th year of Tzeh ulmad. Believe it or not, 8 years could be the 8th year. 8th year. I want to thank Mati first for arranging it. I want to thank all of you for coming to join us to hear from people across the city. And this past 9 days, the ladies auxiliary asked me to record and to post online their shiurim for the ladies for the 9 days. And the first day was somebody named Yankel Weiss. So I came back to AGUDAH beating my chest. You hear Yankel Weiss, fantastic speaker. And AGUDAH, they know everything. We heard him. You didn't know. You didn't know. He said, Davin here. He was here. They right away belittled whatever I did. So people here already know you. Very much. I appreciate you take time out of your busy day to be able to share with us your insights. Today's shiur. Today's Kugel, we don't sponsor this year. Today's Kugel and broadcast is sponsored by Yaakov Samsonovich, liluy nishmas, his grandfather, and now by Dudy Zimmerman. Yes, Kugel and the ulmad by Dudy Zimmerman, liluy nishmas, his father.
David Shmuel.
David Shmuel, who's buried in the Clanton Park section. If you give me enough time, I'll call up what's written on his matzeva. Okay. Shamshav and Aliyah, Shprech, Yankel, it's all yours.
Tzeh, this week is really, I would say, chock full of mitzvahs, and there's so much to speak about throughout the whole parsha. But I like to focus on the first two psukim, bring up a few horrors, and have two different mahalchim on how to answer these questions. You go out to battle. Rashi says it's a melchemes reshus, not a melchemes mitzvah. And b'shavisa shivya, you'll capture a captive. But isa b'shivya eishes yifas, a person will see during battle an eishes yifas, a beautiful woman. And she's not going to be, she's going to be from the umas oil, not a goya, not a Yiddish woman. There is telling you that you are allowed to take her as a wife. You're allowed to marry her. So Rashi says something very interesting, and he brings, it's actually, the source is a Gemara in Kedushin Daf Chof Aleph. And Rashi says the following. I want to analyze Rashi just to show the Kedushas Divrei Rashi, how precious every word in Rashi is, and how much deep meaning there is in what Rashi says. In fact, Rabbeinu Tam, when he wrote his Pirush, he said, the Pirush on Shas, I could have written like my grandfather, like Rashi. But the Pirush on the Torah that Rashi has, no way that he could even come near his grandfather in Shat on Sukkim in the Torah. So Rashi says, "V'lakachta l'chol isha, loy dibra Torah el keneged Yetzer Horah." The Torah was not speaking only to, we can translate literally, against the Yetzer Horah, keneged Yetzer Horah. This is a Gemara in Kedushin, it says it twice, and Rashi adds a few of his own words that many achronim, they jump on Rashi. It's almost mind-boggling to understand what Rashi means. Because Rashi says, if the Rebbeinu Shalom was not going to allow this person to marry her, he won't give her the permission to marry her. Yisa'enu b'isr. He'll marry her anyways. He'll go against the Torah. He'll do an isr on the Torah, and he'll marry her. Therefore, we had to allow, Kodesh Baruch Hu had to allow that he should marry this woman. Question, won't the Achronim ask, then every Isser in the Torah, you can be matter. Because if you're not matter an Isser, and somebody is very hungry, and he's in no man's land, and he sees a McDonald's, and nobody's looking, and he's very hungry, and if you're not going to be matter him in such a case, he's going to go ahead and do it anyways. So what does Rashi say? This is Rashi's own words. Not Shemeina Kodesh Baruch Hu Batiro Yis'anu B'Yisr. He'll marry her.
Why is she usher? She a midyanis? She's a
goiter. She's a goiter.
So no, I understand. There's a various of the Avera of.
You're not allowed to marry a Nachris. She's not a Yid. A Yid only has to marry a Yid. There's even dinam of it. So But I goiter is about the nishmas. When I say is a isra in the Torah. But I say the Pharisee isra. The Torah telling you that we can't take their daughters, and our sons shouldn't marry their daughters, and their sons shouldn't marry our daughters. So this is an isra in the Torah. In this case, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells you can marry her. What is the pshat in this Rashi? How do we understand it? That if we're not going to be matter, question number one. Question number two. What's the language? Loi dibra Torah. The Torah did not speak. Elo only keneged Yetzer Horah, against the Yetzer Horah. It should say very simply. Dibra Torah keneged Yetzer Horah. What's this loi and elo? Dibra Torah, the Torah spoke, keneged Yetzer Horah, against the Yetzer Horah, who is going to try and convince you to marry her. So the Torah says, you know what? In this case, it's okay. What's the loi and the elo? Two mahalchim, which are very beautiful. Some Sefer brings from a compatriot of his, from Reb Tzeh Ranjburg. Tzeh Ranjburg was in Prague, and he didn't have an official title. He was Rosh Yeshiva of Prague. He wasn't even a Rav. And he says the following. He says a beautiful, beautiful pshat, an eye-opener pshat. And he says the following. HaKadosh Baruch Hu understands. He created the Yetzer Horah. Yetzer Horah, what's his job? His job is, if the Torah tells you to do something, his job is to convince you not to do it. And if the Torah HaKadosh tells you not to do something, then his job is to convince you that you should do it. That's his role. That's what he's here for. When Klal Yisrael went out, and it's a difficult battle. There's a battle always, constant battle. Who's going to win? Is the Yetzer Horah going to win, or are we going to overpower him and decide that we have to follow the way of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? HaKadosh Baruch Hu understood that if we're fighting one war, a physical war, if a person during a physical war is going to have a second milchama, he'll have to succumb. Because the Rebbeinu Shalom understood that the derech of the ulmad is you're fighting and you have to concentrate on the one milchama. You have to give it everything. If there's going to be another thing that's going to be a challenge, they'll never be that good. So if anybody asks you where is reverse psychology in the Torah, tell me guys, where can we find reverse psychology in the Torah? Hey, nobody knows, right? The answer is here. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tell you, marry her. And therefore, the Yetzer Horah is going to say, and so you have a het or not? It's okay to marry her. The Yetzer Horah is going to come and tell you, don't marry her. What do you have to have? A headache, a goiter, and everything else. You have nice Jewish girls. What are you driving yourself crazy? Don't. Like Dibra Torah, in this sense, the Torah didn't speak Ella. The whole reason that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was matter this, Ella keneged Yetzer Horah, against the Yetzer Horah, who usually convinces you to do against the wish of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So this was a pu'ula, a double reverse. Tell him you can marry her. Now you can marry her. So no, it's not. It's no way. That's the one mahalach, and that's why Rashi says, "Like dibur Torah el keneged Yetzer Horah," and Shim'en HaKadosh Baruch Hu matir is not by all the averos in the Torah. In this case, where you have two wars to fight at the same time, the challenge is too great. HaKadosh Baruch Hu realized we have to do something here to make it easier on the person, and that's why we lakachta al-chodisha. Second question. Aryeh Chaim touches on this. Right, the first pasuk. Why do we need the whole first pasuk? You say, la milchama aloivecha. We'll go and fight a war. The Torah wants to just tell us if you see a nation. The second pasuk is the important pasuk. What's going to happen? You'll see during the so it should say, Aryeh Chaim even touches on this. It says, Kisira Bashivya, Ashes Yefas Toya. If you'll see an Ashes Yefas Toya, Bashivya means during a war. What's Kiseitzel Michom Alevecha? The Dubna Magga says a really very nice thought. He says the following. In a physical battle, there's three different possibilities. Either we go out to war and the enemy, we don't even go out to war. The enemy comes, they capture us, they take us away. We don't have a chance to fight, and overpowers us, whether we're in cities that we live or towns that we live. That's one scenario. We don't even have weapons. We can't even fight against it. Second scenario is going out to battle. You know that the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to help us during the war, but it's going to be a battle. It's a fight. We find in all of Nach, Shaul HaMelech went out to Milchama, Dov HaMelech went out to Milchama. They had to go out to war. They had to fight against the enemy. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps us that the third kind of a war is the war like in Parshas Eikev. We don't even have to fight. The enemy is so petrified, so scared of us, they lay down their arms, they surrender immediately, like it says in the end of Parshas Eikev. Nobody will stand out against you. You won't have to fight. Nothing. They're going to give up. That's a physical war. The Dubna Magid, in a spiritual war, you have the same three scenarios. You have somebody who's a Rosha who succumbs to whatever the Yetzer Horah tells him. The Yetzer Horah has him in the palm of his hand, and whatever the Yetzer Horah tells him to do, he's freedom, and he's a try, does what he wants. There's a second type of a person who has a constant battle, but he knows he has to fight against the Yetzer Horah, and he prays for help, that he should be able to overcome the challenges that the Yetzer Horah throws against him. The third is the kind of tzaddik gomer, like David HaMelech at the end of his life when he did tshuva, and I have no more Yetzer Horah. I got rid of him. There's nothing in this world that I do that is connected or so the Dudy says that these three are equal and represent each other at three different scenarios at three different times. When a person is in the matzav of the enemy, where the Rosha takes him over completely, and there's nothing to talk about. You go out to a war, you don't have a chance to fight. The enemy overpowers you. The second, when Klal Yisrael is in a matzav of they have to fight, they are not tzaddikim gemurim. And there's a constant battle spiritually between Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Horah. That's the second scenario. The third one is where Klal Yisrael does everything the Ritzayin HaBoyer. This battle here is talking about Melchemes Rishus, where you go out to fight, where Klal Yisrael has to go out to fight. So he says, Klal Yisrael then is in a matzav of that person who has the constant fight with Yetzer Horah. And that's what the Torah is telling you. You say when you're going out to battle and you're in a matzav of where you spiritually constantly have to fight against Yetzer Horah, and it's a constant conflict in Melchama, that's the time where Isa Bashiv Yaeshish Fastoyach. If you're a Tzaddik Gomer, you won't even look. If you're a Rosh Gomer, he doesn't care if the Torah is matter or not matter. This is, he says, is exactly one connected the other. And that's why the Hagdoma is has to be that Hagdoma. We're talking at that type of a period. These are the two inyonim on the parsha that are oris. But there are many, many more, which I'm just going to throw some questions out. And over the weekend Shabbos, everybody can look into them and try to understand.
But this clock is 5 minutes slow.
What does it say in the pasuk? You will see a nation you'll wander. Yeah. And then it says, at the end of this whole thing, there will be, means it will be wonderful. If you he didn't want to desire, but in diktuk. What does it mean loichafat? You did want her. You married her. No, but the Torah is telling you.
No longer wants it.
Oh, so it should say if now in this time you don't want her now, but not Eloi chafatzta bo.
That's his past tense.
Chafatzta means his past. If he didn't want her, but he wanted her, so what's the pshat in Eloi chafatzta bo? Right? Huh?
Now even I realize that.
Very good. You say, well, you're on the right track. You're on the right track. Very good. Very good. But also, one kasha. But what does it say before? It says v'chashakta bo. So why does the Torah change the lashon now and says v'hoyim lo chafatzta bo? V'hoyim lo chashakta bo. That's how the Torah starts off. V'chashakta l'kach el chalisha. Why doesn't it say v'hoyim lo chashakta bo? Why chafatzta? Good. These are questions.
What's the nuanced difference between cheshek and chafetz?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, if you want to really delve into it, look in the parsha of the Ma'aseh of Shechem and Dinah, and there right away, in Parshas say in Bereshis, you'll see there's a loshon of cheshek and a chafetz. Chafetz b'bas Yaakov, and he had a cheshek. And there, if you look in the Mefarshim, they all tell you the difference between cheshek and chafetz. But that's a lot different. I'm not bringing it into here. You can't go through Elul without at least talking a little bit about what Elul is about. So, Pashas, we're deep into Elul now, Baruch Hashem, and I might just want to bring up a few interesting points. What's the makor of blowing shofar on Motzei Yom Kippur? Why do we blow shofar on Motzei Yom Kippur? Anybody know? Doesn't say no mitzvah in the Torah. Nowhere is in the Torah that every Motzei Yom Kippur, but it does say in a certain place. It does say you blow shofar. Very good. So Tosfos in Masechtas Shabbos in Iluk Kishorim, Kuf Yud Daled Amud Beis, the last Tosfos in Masechtas Shabbos, brings this, but he says a technical reason why we don't blow shofar, why we do blow shofar on Motzei Yom Kippur, is just to let women and children know that the fast is over. And they can now start eating. It's over. We're still going to be in shul. We're going to have marriage, but for everybody else, they should know. And the women have to go home and start preparing a meal. It's like a Yontif Tosfos says. That's what they read. And then Tosfos is one of the few places in Shas where Tosfos brings the machzor. The machzor of Yom Kippur has a payet, and the machzor says, and he brings this as a proof because the machzor says that once you finish fasting, you have to be ritzuy. The ritzuy, the day of Yom Kippur is a ritzuy, meaning it's a forgiving time of Kodesh Baruch Hu to call Yisrael, and then you have to celebrate Beditza on Yom Kippur. But then he brings that from the Goyim, one of the Goyim says the reason is because Yovel, they used to blow on Motzei Yom Kippur, on Yom Kippur itself, to free the slaves and have all the property go back. So zecher to that, we blow every Motzei Yom Kippur. Choice says, well, I don't like that reason, because then you should blow only once in 50 years. If it's only a zecher for Yovel, Yovel is once in 50 years. Why do we blow every year? Reb Salanta had a very famous part, and he used to tell us Talmidim all the time, that really, a whole year is Elul. A whole year should be Elul. But he said in Yiddish, but Elul is fort Elul. A whole year should be Elul. A whole year should be Elul, but Elul is still Elul. It's still Elul. It's still, as I said, right? That's what Reb Salanta said. So one of his Talmidim came over and asked him, so Rebbe, when does the Elul of the whole year start? He says the Elul of the whole year starts by the Tkiyah Shofar Motzei Yom Kippur. Tkiyah Shofar Motzei Yom Kippur, that's the beginning of Elul for the year. So that's what he said, right? That's just like Rosh Chodesh Elul, we blow shofar. And why do we blow shofar? Because we'll see it in a moment why we blow shofar Rosh Chodesh Elul. But just like then we blow shofar to start Chodesh Elul for the year is Motzei Yom Kippur. How do we approach Elul? Our grandfathers, great-grandfathers, it was a different doyer. In Yiddish, they used to say that when Elul comes, the fish in the Wasser zitter. The fish in the water are shivering from Chodesh Elul. Pachad noira. They were so uplifted a whole year, and they were lived such a life that to them Elul had to be even. They had this pachad of Elul, the pachad of Yom Adin. I'm not saying that we have to be different. Is Kiyum Yira. But our generation, somehow, Yira is not one of the favorite topics that it paralyzes. We're in paralysis. Kids, we can't cope. Generally, the generation can't cope. You need therapy because if I'm too pressured, if I'm too scared and too paralyzed, I can't function probably. Can't do things. So how do we approach Elul? We approach Elul very simply. It's very interesting. The Shabbos before Rosh Chodesh Elul. You know, every year the same parsha is before Rosh Chodesh Elul or before Chodesh Elul, before Birchas Rosh Chodesh or before Chodesh Elul. Parshas Re'eh. Anybody know how many times it says the word Simcha in the Torah? In the whole Torah, the five Simcha. Yes? Okay, well, I say Simcha or Smachtem or the Simach, anything with Simcha, 14 times. 14 times in the Torah. Which parsha has Simcha the most?
The Samach Yodai Al Russia part doesn't count, right? The Samach Yodai.
Although I know, Samach is Shina Meschala, but not in this case. Not in this case. The parsha that has the Simcha, most Simcha is Parshas Re'eh. Shabbos before Rosh Chodesh Elul. You count it 7 times. It says Simcha in Parshas Re'eh. And we're talking in the middle of the year. What's the Simcha? The Simcha is, and that's the bottom line, we have to approach Elul with a Simcha, knowing that we're coming closer to the Rebbeinu Shalom. The people were coming into the Beis HaMikdash. They're talking about bringing an oil in the middle of the year. Nothing to do with Yom Tov, not Shlomim, not Shalmei Chagiga, nothing. So you bring your korbanos in the middle of the year. Coming to the Beis HaMikdash, you have a zechiyah to get closer. The time when Anila Doidi V'Doidi Li, we're moving closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a time of simcha. You have to realize that this is a time where we can accomplish, and it's a simcha to accomplish. It's a simcha to get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's really the nekuda of simcha, because simcha has to do with the leiv. Or is the rule like tzaddik or yishrei leiv simcha? Wherever you see, in Shir Hashirim, Yom Simchas Liboy. Again, simcha is associated many times with the leiv. The leiv is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Gemara says, Rahman al-Liba boy. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants our hearts. He wants us to put our hearts into when we do a mitzvah. Especially, we'll talk about tefillah when we daven, because it's of the b'chol levavchem that we have to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chol levavchem with all our heart. So the Gemara asks, what's the pshat? How can you serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chol levavchem? B'chol levavchem zu tefillah. When we daven, we connect. And the Lashon tefillah is connecting. Leah called her son, Rachel actually called one of her sons, which was not her son, Naphtali. You look in it in Parshas Berei, in there, right? Rashi says Naphtali, Lashon Chibur, a Lashon of connection. And then Rashi says, Niftalti imachoisi gam yocholti. Niftalti is tefillah. It's loisi. So the Targum says tzloisi davening, and also means connection. That's where we have a connection to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Is our approach to tefillah. And I've tons of speakers speak about tefillah, but we have to believe in the power of tefillah. Tefillah has a tremendous power. I recently saw a very interesting story in Yetzer Horah. It was a story that a nightclub owner, a chofshi, a secular, totally secular nightclub owner, decided to build a nightclub in a suburb of Tel Aviv, about 4 doors away from a shtibel. So this shtibel people, they got all flustered. A nightclub 4 doors away from the shtibel. I mean, this is terrible. And they tried everything. They tried to convince him not to build it there. And he says, no, this is his dream, wants to build it here. And he started construction, and he was really building. And the building was going well. The shtibel got together, they davened, they said Tem Sukkah up Tilim in the morning. They said at night, after between Melech and Marv, they did everything. They davened, they cried, we can't have this nightclub here 4 doors away from us. It's going to be terrible. He practically completed it. It was almost finished. It was ready to open within a week or 10 days later. And one night, a fire broke out and burned it to the ground. The whole nightclub was demolished, was finished. This nightclub owner decided to take the shtibel to court. Yeah, he filed court papers with the judge, and he told the judge. Yeah, he told the judge his claims was that their prayers was what caused his thing to burn.
That's a real.
It's a real story. It's a real story. You can check it out. They said his prayers. He said their prayers was what caused the nightclub to burn down, and they had to rebuff him. So they sent counterclaims, and they said the Shtibel people said that the burning of his nightclub had nothing to do with their prayers. Nothing to do with their prayers. The papers came to the judge. The judge was a secular judge, and he started scratching his head. He says, "I don't know how I'm going to rule this." He says, "Here we have a secular nightclub owner with tattoos all over him, doesn't believe anything, but he has this belief in the power of prayer. And here you have a shul full of Orthodox even davening, and they don't believe that their prayers had anything to do with the burning of the nightclub. How am I going to rule this?" He says. We have the first thing we have to do is we have to believe. We have a power. There is power. And the worm the marumba shaloilam. When Adam is alzim, boy, people are mezalzel in this. What's pshat mezalzel? Doesn't mean it means whether a person is he has to get out of shul very quickly. You know, I'm not from the Asor Rishonim, but I can tell you I'm from the Asor Achronim, and I get heck every day. Why come home so late for shul? But its idea is not to run. You're talking to the Rebbeinu Shalom. I want to talk to him. I have things to ask him. You know, somebody came to the Satmarov, the old Satmarov, and he was crying to me. He says, Rebbe, the Rebbeinu Shalom is never going to forgive me. I have so many, you have no idea. I did so many Averis. He says, I'm never going to come clean. I'm doing tshuva and I'm trying, but the Rebbeinu Shalom, I'm out of it. I'm out of the picture. Well, Satmarov looked at him and said, "Do you daven 3 times a day?" He said, "Yeah, you daven shmonei esreh." Of course I daven 3 shmonei esreh a day. So he said to him, "Then you're making 3 brochel batolas every single day." He says, "What do you mean with brochel batolas? If you daven shmonei esreh, you say, either kikel toy v'salach slach lanu kikel toy v'salach ofer, and you end it off chanun hamar bel isloyach, and you don't believe it, then you're saying a bracha batola. We have to believe chanun hamar bel isloyach. The Lord forgives. We try every yell. Somebody says every yell I do the same thing. I come back again. This year I'm going to change it. It'll be better. And that's one of the vertlach. He says the Satmar says mereshis ashono but achris shono. So we say, "Ein Yashem Elokecha tov mereishis hashono ad achris shono." What does it mean? Ha means that special year. Mereishis hashono. And why does it say ad achris shono? It say achris hashono. Because when the beginning of the year comes, everybody says, "This is going to be the year hashono. This is going to be the year." You'll see. I'm gonna knock away. I'm gonna learn more. I'm gonna daven more. I'm gonna do mitzvahs more. I'm gonna do everything else more. But then, vad achris. When it gets to the end of the year, Sean, it's the same regular year like it was last year. Not much change happened. So that's why many people say, don't be makabel on yourself on Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. I'm going to do 15 things. I'm going to change 15 things. I'm going to change. You'll see. Work on one thing. Work on one thing. This year, I benched. It took me 10 seconds to bench. I never looked into a sitter. I ran and I got finished. This year, I want to be careful on my benching. I'm going to, one bracha, whatever. I'm going to take a sitter now, and you'll see this. I'm going to work on that throughout the year, that I should bench properly. I should say thank you properly. Work on that. Once you get to that, next year we try something else. That's what tefillah is, and we really, that's something that I think my father had a brother. Zecher Tzadik Lebrochi was murdered in Auschwitz. He was a Ish Ashkoiles. His name was Moshe. And he wrote down many good vertlach that he saw. He had a whole pamphlet on Sugas Hashas, and if he heard some Agudah, a nice Agudah. So the Gemara says, with this I'm going to sort of more or less finish off. The Gemara says that Abaye said, Timiani, I'm wondering, in Yesh B'doir Hazeh, Abaye said in his generation, if in my generation there's somebody that can say Musar, I can say to somebody else that you have to be better, you have to do. Why? Because if I tell somebody, "Tul koitzbein einach," you have a little thorn in your eye, take it out. He'll tell you, "Tul koirab einach," you've got a whole beam in your eyes. So you're telling me, Musar, it's just an alley. sort of an anecdote. You tell somebody to change a little bit, they'll tell you the answer is you change a lot. And when you change a lot, then you'll come back to tell me that too. So how can we say Musa? That's what Abaye said. There's nobody that can say Musa. It's everybody else, because everybody can retort. First, work on yourself before you talk to somebody else. So he says the way you can do it is nachtus odorachenu b'nach toira. That's what we say in Tefillah. Nachtus odorachenu means that we have to look, we have to be boidik, we have to check our ways. The nach toira, and we'll look into it to see how we can improve. Yeah. So he said, somebody once said, "Pshat, nachtus." If you tell people and you're talking to people and you say nachtus odorachenu, let's all together. You're including yourself. You're not pointing fingers at somebody else. Then v'nach toira, that time of tul koira beinenecha falls away because you're including yourself in this as well. So I was thinking with this, I'm going to finish. With every mitzvah, Tishri is a tremendous month that's going to be full of so many mitzvahs, tremendous amount of mitzvahs. Mitzvah shofar, mitzvahs lulav, esreh lulav, mitzvah sukkah, mitzvah arovas. Baruch Hashem, it's from all sides we have mitzvahs. With every mitzvah, you could do chesed. Right? Kiyah shofar. Right? It's a mitzvah to blow. But you could do a chesed if you know people that didn't hear shofar that can't come out of their houses, or people that are locked in or shut-ins. You take your shofar, you go and you blow for them. That's a chesed. I'm doing the mitzvah, but with this shofar, I'm doing a chesed. You have a lulav and esreh. Then you see somebody coming in who doesn't have a lulav and esreh, and he needs it. He needs you. You want to be mazakim to be a makam the mitzvah. You can give him your lulav and esreh. You can give him makam the mitzvah. You have a sukkah. Somebody doesn't have a sukkah to sit into. You stop. Well, you're welcome in my sukkah. You're doing a chesed. How do we do chesed with tefillah? How can you do a chesed to somebody else? Huh?
Have him in mind.
I'll finish with this.
Yeah.
What bothers me, really, I can't tell you tremendously.
So I'm wondering about that. But so how do you do chesed with your tefillah?
That's what I'm telling you now. That's how I'm answering that question. How do you do chesed with tefillah?
Yeah.
What bothers me, and I think it's a legitimate, you have 110 people davening on a shul. You have a shliach tzibur that's davening, and he's finished shmonei esreh. He turns around and he's counting. He's got, I have 13 people that finished shmonei esreh. Take it away. He's on his way. You have 95 people that are standing and are still davening shmonei esreh. He's going so fast that maybe 10 of them will swallow all their words from Moedim to the end to try and catch up to say Kodesh. But there'll be 75 people. You are a shliach tzibur. You're not a shliach of yechidim. You now deprived 75 people from saying Kedusha. If you would have waited 75 to 90 seconds, just wait 75 seconds. You can't please everybody. You can't wait till everybody gets finished. But you would have given an opportunity to another 35, 40 people to say Kedusha. And I do believe that the Shliach Tzibur, whoever it is, also Lovway, the Ramon will ask him, why didn't you wait? I could have had 40 more of my Tyre Yidden that would have said Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh. You want to know how you can do chesed with tefillah? You're standing there. Don't let anybody, when you turn around, push you. Go, go, go. We have 10 people. We have 11 people. Take it away. Just go. You tell this guy, I'm sorry. You tell here the tzibura of 90 seconds. What do people do with that extra 60 to 90 seconds? You know what they do? They stand in the hallway and they shmooze. But that they have time. They have a tremendous amount of time for that. After davening, you can 5. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying you want to do chesed with tefillah. That's how you do chesed with tefillah. You're mezaka 40 other people. You know, we have a design business. I'm still working. Like this. Like that I still have to work. I not have to, but that's the way the Baruch Shalom wants everybody to be in a certain place. We have designers that are coming into our showroom and they run in. They have a client that they have to choose A, B, C, and D. And they tell right away, they tell my wife is sitting in the front, they tell our staff, I have 6 minutes. I have to be out of here because, so show me, pull me a bunch of samples, pull me what you can. So we go crazy, we pull it. And then Somebody asked them from our staff, so how was your skiing vacation a week ago? Oh, it was beautiful. She'll sit down for 20 minutes. She'll tell us about the ski vacation. Her kids were going in the car and this and that and where they went. But that they have time. She comes running and she says, you only have 6 minutes. So what happened to the 6 minutes? But that there's time. We have to sometimes manage our time and say, I know Tircha the Tzibura up to a point. That's why I said, you can't wait for everybody to finish. There's people that take an hour with the Davar Shmonei. But turn around and say, Rabbi Shalom, wait a second, you're in a hurry? Wait, 1 minute, give me 60 seconds. And I'll show you that 20 other people, 30 other people are going to say Kedusha. What a schar that's going to be for the Shliach Tzibur. You come Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, and this is the person that says it's not going to be pushed around. He's the driver. He's not going to be pushed around. These are all mitzvahs that get put into his book. And the word says, you know,
I can't do it at the 7:30
this is a trip.
meeting. You want
This
to
is a
try
trip.
it at 7 o'clock?
You're davening tomorrow, no? You're davening tomorrow?
I'm just giving you
Tomorrow for the ulmad.
I just want to end off. What do we say? We're going to be saying this tefillah and this pasuk a lot, which we don't say a whole year. We're going to be saying this starting from a week before Slichas, actually the week of Slichas, all the way to after Yom Kippur. Anybody know which pasuk we're going to say? Abi yosim al har kodshi, v'simachtim beveis tefilosi, oy l'seim v'zivchem l'rotzoin al mizbechi ki beisi beis tefilo yikori l'chol amim. What is the Rebbe Shalom called the Beis Hamikdash? Abi yosim, right? Al har kodshi, v'simachtim beveis tefilosi. Beis Hamikdash is called beis tefilosi. It's a connecting place. And if we want to connect with the Rabbeinu Shalom, we have to do what we have to do. Chodesh Elul is coming, and this will push us through the rest of the year. The Chinuch says, many times in the mitzvah, all of his mitzvahs, many of his mitzvahs, it means that a person becomes impressed by what he does, not what he thinks. You do something long enough, you're a good person, you do. Same thing with tzedakah. Somebody once asked, the Rambam says this, it's halacha the Rambam. Is it better to give one big check, $500? I give one big check for 500, or is it better to give, right, 100 people $5? He says it's much better to give 100 people $5. Why? Because then you get used to it. You have a hergel of giving.
That's the only what he thinks that
I'll tell you, Satmar Rov was a very smart Rov. I'm just going to finish up. I'm later than I should be. When I was in Williamsburg learning the yeshiva, the income for every shul was their annual Melava Malka on Motzei Shabbos. Once a year, every shul, Tzeh made a Melava Malka. I don't know if you remember those times, right? Satmar made, when Satmar only had 3-4, I remember when he had only 300 or 400 Hasidim, 500. To go to Tish, there was 100 people at the Tish. I mean, it wasn't like today. It's mind-boggling. Otherwise, it's just not to be believed what that is today. But they used to have a Melava Malka. And Satmar once met Salem Arov after his Melava Malka. And he asked him, how did your Melava Malka go? Was this a nice income? So he said, no, this year was really bad. So he says, by me and Satmar, we raised a lot of money. So Satmar asked him, Salem, what do you do? How do you? So I'll tell you what. What do you mean what I do? There used to be appeals in all the shuls for this, for that. It's throughout the year. He used to make appeals, and Salem said, before my beloved Malka, for 2 months, there's no appeals in my shul. Nothing. I want people that when they're writing me a check, they shouldn't say that I gave last year, the 2 weeks. I give this way, I'm going to get the money. And Satmar, what do you do? What do I do? Before my beloved Malk, every day we have an appeal, not once. And my Hasidim are sitting there writing checks. By the time it comes to my beloved Malk, they're so used to writing checks. It's not hard for them to take out their pen and write a check. For you, for 2 months, they didn't write a check. You expect them to sit down now and write a check to you? It doesn't work that way. Right? Anyways, have a ksiva shiur and a gazin shiur.
Way to start off the year.